The sun blazed down on the gleaming rows of luxury cars, each polished surface reflecting the late afternoon light like mirrors. Inside the air-conditioned showroom, Ethan Crane, a seasoned car salesman with a reputation for being one of the best in the business, sat behind his desk. He was a man known for his ability to read potential buyers within moments. Ethan prided himself on his instincts, honed over years of judging customers by their clothes, the way they spoke, or the cars they drove. For him, selling cars was not just a job, but a game of power and persuasion that he played to win. That day, as Ethan adjusted his tie and reviewed his sales targets, he noticed someone entering the showroom, a man with a calm, confident stride dressed in a simple yet sharp suit. Ethan's instincts immediately kicked in as he sized up the new arrival. The man's name was Marcus King, though Ethan didn't know that yet. Marcus, a black man in his early 40s, appeared out of place in the showroom, at least by Ethan's judgment. To him, Marcus seemed like a fish out of water, a man who clearly didn't belong in a high-end luxury car dealership. As Marcus strolled through the showroom, he allowed his fingers to trail along the sleek exteriors of the cars, appreciating their craftsmanship. Ethan watched with a smirk, interpreting Marcus's gesture as a sign of inexperience rather than admiration. He saw it all too often. People who wanted to experience luxury without the means to afford it. With a practiced smile, Ethan approached, his posture confident and his tone just a shade too dismissive. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, his voice carrying an undertone of skepticism. Marcus looked up, meeting Ethan's gaze with a warm, polite smile. "Yes, I'm interested in purchasing one of these cars," he said, his voice steady. "I've been considering an upgrade to my collection." Ethan's eyebrows shot up, his mind processing Marcus's words with a hint of disbelief. A collection? The comment didn't fit with Ethan's mental picture of Marcus. With barely concealed condescension, he pressed, "And if you don't mind me asking, what kind of car do you currently drive?" Marcus replied smoothly, "I drive a Porsche right now, but I'm looking for something new." Ethan's smirk deepened, and he glanced at Marcus's attire again, trying to reconcile the image before him with what he believed to be the typical profile of a luxury car owner. "A Porsche, huh?" he said, his tone skeptical. "Well, you must be doing pretty well for yourself." Marcus, maintaining his composure, simply nodded. "I've worked hard for everything I have." In his mind, Ethan had already decided that Marcus was either lying or exaggerating. There was no way, he thought, that a man like this could be in a position to buy a luxury car, let alone own a Porsche. This was either a waste of his time or a practical joke. "These cars don't come cheap, as I'm sure you know," Ethan said with a smirk. "Maybe I can show you something more affordable?" Marcus paused, and his smile faded slightly, a flicker of disappointment crossing his face. He had encountered this kind of treatment before, and although he was no stranger to it, it didn't make the experience any less disheartening. Nonetheless, he kept his cool, his voice calm. "I'm aware of the cost," he replied. "I'd like to see your top-of-the-line models." Unfazed, Ethan continued to look at Marcus with thinly veiled contempt. "We have a very particular clientele here," he said, folding his arms. "The kind of people who buy these cars don't usually just walk in off the street." Marcus raised an eyebrow, his voice still polite but tinged with subtle defiance. "Oh? And what kind of people would that be?" Ethan leaned back slightly, folding his arms across his chest, smirk widening. "Let's just say, people who have the means to afford a car like this. Not everyone can." Marcus's face remained calm, but there was a flicker of frustration in his eyes. Taking a steady breath, he met Ethan's gaze. "Well, Ethan," he said, glancing at the name tag on the salesman's chest, "why don't you go ahead and show me what you have available?" Despite his misgivings, Ethan felt he had no choice. Leading Marcus through the showroom, he highlighted various models, each description punctuated by subtle digs about price and affordability. Finally, they reached the most expensive car in the showroom, a high-end limited edition model that Ethan was certain Marcus couldn't afford. "This one here," Ethan said, patting the hood of the car with exaggerated pride, "might be a bit out of reach, but hey, it doesn't hurt to look, right?" For a brief moment, Marcus's jaw clenched, but he quickly regained his composure. He walked around the car, examining it carefully, then turned to Ethan. "I'll take it," he said simply. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" "I'll take the car," Marcus repeated, his tone calm and unwavering. Ethan hesitated, momentarily thrown off balance. Do you have the financing arranged, or? Marcus chuckled softly. No need for financing, I'll pay in full. Reaching into his jacket pocket, he produced a sleek black card and handed it to Ethan, who stared at it in shock. This was not just any credit card. It was a card reserved for the ultra-wealthy, a level of affluence few people could fathom. As the realization of his mistake dawned on him, Ethan's face paled. He had completely misjudged Marcus, assuming he was just another person trying to live beyond their means. I'd like the car delivered to my office downtown, Marcus said, his voice calm but commanding. And while you're at it, I'll take a few more cars for my team. Consider it a bulk purchase. Ethan's mind reeled as he stammered. What do you mean? Your team? Marcus smiled, but there was a new sharpness in his gaze. I'm not just here to buy a car, he said, stepping closer. I'm here to finalize an acquisition. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. An acquisition? That's right, Marcus replied, his voice steady. I'm the new owner of this dealership chain. I've been working on the deal for months, and today is the day it's finalized. The color drained from Ethan's face as he stared at Marcus, speechless. The man he had spent the last half hour belittling and humiliating wasn't just wealthy enough to buy the cars. He now owned the entire dealership chain where Ethan worked. Marcus's expression remained calm, but there was an edge to his tone. Prejudice blinds people, Ethan. You were so focused on your assumptions that you missed the opportunity right in front of you. Ethan stammered, his mind racing as he tried to come up with a response. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Marcus held up a hand to stop him. I believe in second chances, but they have to be earned. He paused, letting his words sink in. I'm not firing you, Ethan, but things are going to change around here. I'm implementing a diversity and inclusivity training program for all employees, and I expect you to be the first one to sign up. Relief washed over Ethan as he nodded quickly. Of course, absolutely. One more thing, Marcus added, his voice firm. You're going to work under a new team, a diverse team of people from all backgrounds. You need to understand that talent and potential come from every walk of life, not just the ones you're used to. Ethan felt a wave of shame as he realized the depth of his mistake. He had let his own biases cloud his judgment, and now he was being forced to confront the consequences. Over the next few months, Ethan found himself in a vastly different work environment. Marcus introduced new hires from a variety of backgrounds, people of different races, genders, and cultures who brought fresh perspectives and unique talents. At first, Ethan struggled. He had lived his entire life in a comfortable bubble, surrounded by people like himself, and seeing the world through a narrow lens. But as he worked under his new, diverse team, he began to realize how much he had been missing. Each day brought new lessons, challenging Ethan to rethink the way he viewed the world and his own place in it. He attended the diversity training program that Marcus had implemented, and for the first time, he was exposed to stories, perspectives, and experiences he had never encountered before. Slowly, Ethan began to understand how deeply his biases had influenced his life. Marcus, despite everything, treated Ethan with professionalism and respect. He didn't hold grudges, didn't remind Ethan of his past mistakes. Instead, he allowed Ethan to learn from them, quietly guiding him toward a new understanding of what it meant to be a part of an inclusive team. As Ethan's attitude changed, so did his performance. He took on more responsibilities, mentoring new employees and sharing the lessons he had learned. He was no longer just a salesman. He was a leader. His story became one of transformation, a tale of redemption and growth that inspired others. One afternoon, after a particularly successful sales month, Marcus called Ethan into his office. Ethan walked in, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. Despite his progress, a part of him feared that Marcus might still hold that first encounter against him. Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit down, Ethan." Ethan took a seat, his posture stiff. "You've been doing great work," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. "The numbers speak for themselves, but it's more than that. I've noticed a change in you." Ethan swallowed, feeling a surge of emotion. "I've been trying to do better," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "To be better." Marcus gave a faint smile. "I've seen that. You've come a long way since the day we met." Ethan nodded, unable to meet Marcus's eyes. I'll never forget that day. I was so wrong. Marcus's voice softened. We all make mistakes, Ethan. What matters is that you learned from it. You haven't just become a better salesman, you've become a better person, and that's what's important. Ethan's throat tightened with emotion. Thank you. I owe it all to you. You gave me a chance when you didn't have to. Marcus shrugged. Everyone deserves a second chance, Ethan, and you earned yours. In that moment, Ethan realized the depth of Marcus's compassion. He had spent years living in a world that rarely offered second chances, where mistakes were punished harshly, and people were judged without mercy. But Marcus's kindness had taught him the value of empathy, and it was a lesson that would stay with him forever. As time passed, Ethan continued to work alongside Marcus, attending meetings, learning the intricacies of the business, and eventually earning a promotion to a senior management role. Under his leadership, the dealership thrived, becoming known for its inclusive, diverse culture, a reflection of the values Marcus had instilled. One evening, as they celebrated a successful year, Ethan raised a glass to Marcus. "You changed my life," he said, his voice thick with gratitude. Marcus smiled. "No, Ethan. You changed your life. I just opened the door. You chose to walk through it." Years later, Marcus and Ethan's dealership chain became one of the most successful and inclusive in the country. Ethan, now a respected figure in the industry, used his story to inspire others, proving that it's never too late to change. The lesson he had learned from Marcus went far beyond the dealership floor. It was a lesson about redemption, humility, and the strength that comes from facing one's own flaws. And as Ethan continued his journey, he knew he was part of something greater than himself, a legacy of kindness, empathy, and the power of second chances.